Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, 49ers plus minus on a Sunday afternoon after a 10 a.m. start in Cleveland in the wind and the weather. And the 49ers win this game. This was pretty kind of nuts and bolts, is the way I called it in my column. They played the field position game. They win their third straight to get to 9-4, as I always do with my co-host Matt Barrows of The Athletic. What's your headline? What's the first thing you think of coming off of this game?
Well, I think of Brock Purdy because he was coming off of such a bad game against Carolina, and now he's facing the elements. He's facing a defense that does well against Kyle Shanahan coach teams, and I just thought it was a smart game from him. It was just a controlled game from Brock Purdy. The big critique of him, really this year in particular, but really over the course of his career, is that he puts the ball in harm's way too often. And he gets away with a lot of questionable throws because the defense drops it. There weren't any of those today. And in fact, I think he had Jeff Deeney from PFF tweeted this out, that at the time he had 6 throwaways, just balls that he just kind of hoisted out of bounds. And there was one after Jeff posted that. So I think it was 7, and he had 7 combined in the 4 games before this. It's just the nature of the game. He didn't have to force it into coverage. He didn't have to make a lot of aggressive throws, although he did when the occasion called for it, which was with 39 seconds to go at the end of the first half. And so he did sort of put it up there for his guys to go get then, because, at that point, that deep ball to George Kittle, who cares if it's picked off? The Browns aren't going to do anything with it with 7 seconds left or whatever it was. So I just thought it was a very good, and you sort of predicted this, this is why Brock is our quarterback type of game. Because if it had gone downhill, if it was like, 2023 in Cleveland, where he wasn't as good, although he did engineer a comeback at the end, there would have been people lining up to criticize him and criticize the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan and where's Mac Jones and et cetera, et cetera. This game, I think, did away with 99% of those storylines for this week, Tim, for this week.
Maybe for a day or two. I'll just say, when I closed my eyes and really thought about this game, I just could not imagine Brock Purdy having another terrible game. I could see him having a not great game. Just couldn't. And the other thing is, who's tough on quarterbacks? It's not just 49er fans. Kyle Shanahan is tough on quarterbacks. He's changed quarterbacks. He's gone through quarterbacks. He yells at quarterbacks. And he's convinced about Brock Purdy, I think, obviously in many more important ways than we all can be, because he knows. But so for some of the things that we see and then we comment on, he bounces back. If there are errors, he acknowledges them, and then he says, I will not do them again. And he obviously did not do them in this game. He puts together good games, strings of good games, does not put together strings of bad games. So even in the conditions, even when Myles Garrett was so good, that guy is so good. Even with, a lot of things maybe stacked against him, Brock Purdy, I just couldn't picture him having a terrible game. It's just not who he is. He did not have a terrible game. It wasn't a magical statistical game, but again, as you mentioned, it wasn't needed. They had 3 short fields, one on a great Skyy Moore punt return, set them up inside the 5, I think. One when the Browns go for it deep, not around their 30 and don't get it for it. And they're stopped them twice on 4th downs, by the way. That one was in Browns territory. They scored the touchdown there. That's the Purdy run. And then the 3rd time was on the muff punt. A guy who was like juggling the ball all game, Barrows. I'm sure it was tough, everything, but not a terrible strategy. Just punt the ball and let him drop it. And then from there, Purdy threw the touchdown pass to Juwan Jennings. This is how you win games like this. And counting on Shedeur Sanders and the Browns offense, which ran the ball well. You look at the running totals, that's not a terrible game at all, but it was 94 in the first half and I think 40 running yards in the second half, also when they're beginning to trail by a lot. But this is just a classic game with a a struggling offense going against a 49er offense that is good, that is professional, that is coached well, and with a quarterback I did not think was going to have a tough game. And that's just kind of I understand the questions about Purdy when he has a bad game. It's like, do you acknowledge that he usually comes back and plays well? Like that does happen, and then he plays well again, and he plays well again. Some of that history has to be. It can't just be, now he's the terrible quarterback, right? Starting right now, that's the part that I do get from 49er fans. I understand the emotion, but at some point you do have to bake in all the good things that he's done for this team, all the times he's played it right. And this was exactly that. And I did think that 33-yard pass to Kittle, which only produced a field goal at the end of the first half to put him up 10-8, but really was like, okay, they still have control of this game. It wasn't just that they would have gone into halftime trailing 8-7 after the Browns get the touchdown and the 2-point after the 49ers screw up the extra point on 12 men on the field, which allows the Browns to go for it and make it the 2-point. Although I'm not sure they made that one either, by the way. That was pretty, with no replay from CBS or a real quick one. It just was like a motivational, like, this is it. The Browns are going to get the ball to start the third quarter. We can talk about that too. But a stop, a score, and all of a sudden it's one of those 49ers second halves that we've seen when they've been playing very well. So again, I just didn't see a real, likely path for Purdy to stink. If he did, it would have been a massive story. Obviously, he did not. And I just go back. Kyle Shanahan's picked this guy, has stuck with him no matter what, in a way that he never did with Jimmy Garoppolo. And there's reasons for it, because he's good. So we'll have this discussion, I'm sure, on and on throughout Purdy's career. I just think he's a good quarterback. And that was a bad game against Carolina, which they still won. And I did not expect anything close to that this game. And I thought, they didn't get a ton of, the Browns outgained them, by the way, Barrows, 253 to 252. This was not an up and down game. It just was an efficient game. McCaffrey was held under 100 yards for only the third time from scrimmage, for only the third time this season. It's the only time they've won when he's been held under 100. He was way under 100 this game, but he had some big plays. He had the touchdown. He had some third down runs. Just doing exactly what and only what you needed to do, not pushing the button, not getting risky, punting it sometimes when you felt that they shouldn't, but this is how you do it. And sometimes it's going to look not so great, and sometimes it's going to work perfectly when somebody muffs a punt. Just a real professional, pragmatic game, I thought. Exactly what they needed going into the bye. Now they go into the bye, week 14 bye, which they, I thought McCaffrey was playing like this for a while. I didn't think it was going to ever come. Mend up a little bit. They're 9-4. They're a half game behind the NFC West leaders, Rams and Seahawks, who do play each other. So that's an interesting thing for the 49ers. 49ers end the season playing the Seahawks at Levi's. They're right in this, Barrows, and they could win the division. I'm not going to count on that for them. I don't think they're as good as the Seahawks and the Rams, but full credit to 49ers, man, with all these injuries, going out without their quarterback for 8 games. No Bosa, no Warner, no Michael Williams. There is a toughness to this team, Barrows, that I think everyone should acknowledge.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just kind of look at those last 4 games. To me, the 49ers' big glaring weakness is the defensive line, which obviously has been banged up by injuries. Linebacker has been the same. And so, for a while there, I thought, oh gosh, the Browns are just going to run the ball down the 49ers' throat. That's what their 90-yard, their only touchdown drive was, the first 9 plays were running plays, and they averaged 7 yards a carry on those. The reason the Browns had to go away from it was because they fell behind, and that was because of special teams, and that was because of Browns turnovers. But, if it had been a low-scoring game, the Browns would have just stuck with that. I mean, Judkins had 91 yards in this game. He had a great game. He had, I think, 4 yards a carry, and then the other rookie, Dylan Sampson, who, by the way, I was thinking was like the perfect 49ers running back in the draft, but I'm not gonna go any further than that. My point is that they're playing 2 more teams, the Colts and Who else is on their schedule?
Seattle Bears.
The Bears, Colts, and
Yeah.
the Bears. The Bears actually are running the ball better than any team in the league right now. They have the number 1 average, and the Colts are, I think, number 3. So those are 2 teams that can run the ball, that will run the ball against the 49ers. So the 49ers have to kind of keep this formula going, which is, score points, take advantage of your special teams. Like, I don't know who the great special teams coordinators are this season, but gosh, I got to think that Brant Boyer is up there for coordinator of the year, just as far as the turnaround that they've had. And the fact that Skyy Moore came in at the very last minute and has been really, really good, both punt and kickoff now. So there's that they haven't had in recent years. That hasn't been part of their formula heading into the playoffs. They did have the big block punt in Green Bay a few years ago, of course, but that's kind of it for big special teams plays. So, that's what they're going to have to kind of be thinking about studying coming out of the bye. I think that Tatum Bethune, if he's not back for that first game against the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, are on the opposite end of the Bears in terms of rushing offense. They're terrible at that. So that's very winnable. It's at home, coming off the bye, and they may have Tatum Bethune back for that. So Bethune and Yetur Gross-Matos, I think, are the most likely guys who could be back for that critical 4-game stretch to end the season.
Yeah, and I think Bethune would really be necessary. Curtis Robinson, gutty guy, calls the signals. Man, he had a couple plays, but saw him mostly get blocked or run to the sort of the wrong gap, and Judkins kind of bopping through the other side. Hey, it's the third string Mike.
Yeah.
You can't hold it to him, but Bethune really looked good when he was in there before he got hurt. I think that will be a noticeable difference when they match up against some of these running teams. I looked this up, so might as well throw it out there. It doesn't really even matter that much because it's a tight 1-11 Titans. But Shanahan teams from 2019 on, since they got good, 5-1 in the weeks after the bye. And we've seen them go on winning streaks. We know the 10-game winning streak in 2023. I think it started 1 week before the bye, but then they win the last 9 after the bye. And then I think it was like a 6-game winning streak in 2021. Remember, they had that weird start and then get things together. They tend to play well after the bye. Now, this late a bye, an uncharted territory, as they all mention. But it's surely good for getting Bethune back, I think, is like the key thing. We'll see about Yetur Gross-Matos. They certainly could use the help on the defensive line. Thought Keon White had another really good game, though. Like a huge stick.
He started the game.
Yep. He is athletic, and he can. You see him. He shows up on your screen. Cleveland Ferrell is freaking sack master here.
Yeah, he's the sack leader for the 49ers, not the Browns.
Not the Browns. He is doing some stuff. So they have guys now. He gets thin pretty quickly, but and it's the Browns. The other point I'll make is the Browns really took it to the Raiders last week in Las Vegas. How bad are the Raiders?
They're bad. I watched that game. It was crap fest.
I watched a little bit of the Chargers Raiders. That's kind of finishing up right now. The Chargers do not look good, and they're going to win it pretty easily, I think. This is probably NFL's worst team. The Raiders are the Titans, and that's not good for the Pete Carroll era. I'll put it that way. Other things, Kyle Shanahan wins the coin toss and takes the ball. Wow.
I thought you were going to lead with this.
This is me asking Kyle about it last weekend. It's like, no, analytics say that you can get the ball the most if you do it this way. So you know what? If you've got a really good offense or the offense is better than your defense, maybe it's time to think that. No. So someone's got to ask him about this. Maybe he'll have to do this Monday phone call in order to expose himself to what happened there. But I think it's the wind was also part of it, right? If you take the ball, the other team will probably take the win. So you might get the win. I don't know the way that all works out, but it didn't work out perfectly for them. They don't score, but they do score first. And that's my theory on this is scoring first with this team. It just is a mental thing that really helps them. They don't have Nick Bosa. They don't have Fred Warner. They're not going to just line up and knock over the other offense. If they can get the ball and score, it just kind of gives everybody a lift that sometimes I think the defense needs. We'll see if he keeps up with this. I would imagine it mostly was a weather thing, but we'll see. It would be a very interesting thing if he keeps with it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your go-to move, then you can pretty reliably count on the other team to, if they win the toss,
Yep.
to defer, and so it kind of plays into your hands. Yeah, I'm sure the wind had something to do with it. The fact that the 49ers now can sort of rely on their special teams,
Yep. Yep.
that's such a new thing for Kyle Shanahan. Never had that before. Opening scores, Skyy Moore in the last 3 games has basically, put it on a silver platter for the offense for a couple of Christian McCaffrey touchdowns. So that's a huge help. Obviously, it gets everybody going. I think that is. I mean, I thought for a second it's going to be the first punt return touchdown for this team since Ted Ginn in 2011 against the Pete Carroll Seahawks. That was Jim Harbaugh's debut. And special teams really won the day for Jim Harbaugh that day. And that was a good special teams team, that 2011 team. That was the one with all the guys and the future song that they would play, the Tony Montana song. They flew in Future from Atlanta for the divisional playoff game, and boy, that was part of the vibe. Probably the best vibe game I've seen in San Francisco since I've been covering the 49ers.
Was that Blake Costanza and
yes.
all that? Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Michael Wilhite. I'm trying to
Will
remember.
Hoyt, yeah.
Brad Seeley. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say I think this might be even the only close return for a touch. Like, I don't even remember them getting inside the 20 with a punt return. I don't remember them. Like, it's like 2 yards, 1 yard, minus 1 yard. Like, it's just been years and years of nothing from the punt return. And this one, like, it felt like a touchdown just because I've not seen them. They just don't break through. Jacob Cowling sure didn't last year. You didn't see Trent Taylor do that over the years. Skyy Moore is a weapon. And, that's, again, another great thing for them to know that we can attack with the special teams and not give up returns either. So, again, it's like plus 60 yards. And, you have a big one that's even more like plus 100 yards. You're like gaining 100 yards in yardage in changing the field position and all these sorts of things. So full credit Skyy Moore, full credit to Brant Boyer, special teams coach. Special coach teams of the 49ers era, that's for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not even close.
Of the Shanahan era, yeah.
Yes, not even close. Defensively, they didn't look great in the first half, but only gave up 8 points. Stopped big 2 4th down stops. And clearly the Browns aren't going to trust Shedeur Sanders to do a lot, and he shouldn't. He's a young rookie. He's a 6th round pick, whatever he was. Didn't look overly impressive, but didn't look horrendous. But I think the 49ers played it right. Like, this guy isn't going to beat us. Let's make sure that other things are covered. And for a while, Judkins beat them, but not throughout the game. Just to really, I think we've seen Saleh. He's playing that soft zone a little bit, and he's not letting teams get big plays. And we certainly have not seen any of them give up some big plays in the last 5-6 weeks. Just the Rams, but the Rams will do that. And I haven't really seen other teams. They haven't played great quarterbacks other than the Rams, but this is a very smart way to play.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. The Browns had a big assist in this win. I always wonder why teams just don't run a quarterback sneak on a 4th and 1. I mean, it seems to me it's almost always automatic. And they instead hand off to Judkins on one of them, and it gives who was it? It was Mustafa and Jordan Elliott, the time to penetrate and make the stop. And on the second one, direct snap to Harold Fannin, who I think is fascinating player. I mean, I'm sure the 49ers who look very closely at Fannin going into the draft are regretting passing him. I didn't look it up, but I wonder whether he was still available when they took Nick Martin in the third round. It's possible. But my overall point is that, people are crying every time the inactive list comes out before the game, and they see Jordan James, and they see Jordan Watkins, and they see Connor Colby, and they had been seeing Nick Martin on it. The Browns are the team that uses their rookies the most, and it's not even close. They're leading on Sanders, they're leading on Judkins, they're leading on Sampson, they're leading on Harold Fannin, and they're delivering a lot, but they're also mistakes. And that was the drop snap to a tight end. He's not Kyle Juszczyk yet. I know that they want him to be. Even gave Fannin the same number. But you have to live with mistakes, and a couple of them today played right into the 49ers' hands. But the tackling on the defense I thought was shoddy. As sticky as Upton Stout is, speaking of rookies in coverage, you're not at Western Kentucky anymore. You can't just put a shoulder into an NFL player and expect him to go down. He's up there in terms of missed tackles for the 49ers this year, which isn't great for a guy who probably plays, 68% of the snaps.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, Juszczyk doesn't ever convert those fourth and short.
Exactly. I don't know why they try him.
Yeah, they never convert with Juszczyk. But yeah, there definitely were some missed tackles. Again, they're missing some guys. And I thought Mustafa was good. Like he showed up, like that he comes up.
Second game in a row.
Yeah, and he's really good in those kind of games where you're not really worried about the over the top passing for this deep middle, and he can come up and play the run and just fly to it. And he had a couple to the side too. I think they got a player there. I know there had been some sketchiness when he had just come back from his injury, but I think he's fine. D Winters was okay. I didn't think he was great, but he was okay. He didn't blow anything. I thought, man, the guy that Kittle keeps on calling out is Alfred Collins, and he does stuff. He's not always making the tackle for loss. He's not, Myles Garrett or whatever, but you just see him moving, and that's so important. Sometimes the defensive tackles, I think, I'm thinking back to some of Javon Kinlaw's worst days. He had some good days too, but like you never saw him. He just kind of got enfolded up and just didn't move, or he got moved backwards.
Yeah.
And you see 95 just kind of moving. You see him moving side to side. You see him getting up a little bit, not making the plays all the time. But I think this guy has grown a lot as a rookie. And for George Kittle to continuously name check him means a lot. He doesn't do that with defensive players. That must mean he's impressing them in the meetings. He's impressing them on the practice field. And that usually means a young player that's going to be arrow pointing up for quite some time. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the defensive players he has mentioned in the past are Fred Warner and Nick Bosa.
Yeah, pretty good players.
So that's pretty good company that, his focus goes to Alfred Collins when those guys aren't available. You mentioned D Winters. I would imagine that he, among these guys that are kind of looking at that bye and just salivating for a weekend off, I think that he's probably been working through some things and, is looking forward to that and will benefit from that over the last 4 games. Juwan Jennings, you still see him with the big flak jacket on. I think he's been getting healthier and healthier, but again, could stand to have a week off. Pooney, I think that he mended as the season's gone on. Again, he could use it for sure. Trent Williams probably can use it very well too. Trent rarely goes 13 games into the season straight, and he's done that so far. So hat tip to him. Who else? Oh, and so we should talk about the injuries. Nick Martin had a concussion in this game. Ben Bartch had a foot. I think the only reason why he alternates with Spencer Burford at left guard is to minimize or lessen his exposure so that he's not hurt all the time. But despite doing that, he got hurt in this game. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. That could potentially be a big deal. I think they really like Ben Bartch when he's healthy. But Ben Barch is rarely healthy, and that's why they did the rotation. And then Kyle Juszczyk with a rib injury, that could potentially be a big one too. Although I think he told Nick Wagoner of ESPN that he expects to be okay coming out of the bye. So if they had a game coming up on this coming Sunday, maybe he wouldn't play, but he likes his chances for the Titans game.
I'm just trying to think back now, having gone so many weeks where they lost a major guy every single week. I guess we can count Panero, but if we don't count Panero, you talk a line of scrim, a position player. It's been a while since I can think of someone when they've lost somebody, for 2, 4, 6 weeks.
There's nobody great to lose.
Oh, wow, Barrows.
Well, I mean, they did lose Bethune for
Bethune would be the one.
Weeks.
Yeah, Bethune
they are losing Sam Okwuonu for multiple weeks, but Sam Okwuonu doesn't, even though he's a 9-game starter, he doesn't leap to your mind as a big loss because he's a backup player.
Yeah, Furl steps in and produces as much or more right away. So some of that is hard to judge. But, that Michael Williams was a while ago. Nick Bosa was over 2 months ago. So some of this is just the law of numbers. Like, sometimes you're going to get them a bunches, but doesn't mean you're going to get the same thing every single week. Although you can't say you won't get it just because you got injuries in the beginning of the season. But they're beginning to get that. I think Purdy could use a week off maybe and get a little healthier. He looked good running around with that toe, though, Barrows.
He does. I don't think the running is an issue. I mean, I don't see any difference. And there were some scrambles today, and usually these scrambles
away from Myles Garrett. That's not as scrambly as it's going to get.
They usually ended with him sailing the ball out of bounds, which again I think was absolutely the right move. But he looked like Brock Purdy in kind of buying those extra seconds to throw, at least give himself the opportunity to throw downfield. So I guess my point is that if it's not the running where he's bothered, and he's been consistent in saying, no, I'm not 100%, not even close to 100%. I think it's the throwing, and Brock Purdy is very much the type of thrower who needs his feet planted in the ground. He kind of uses every bit of torque he can get from planting those feet, and he's got very strong legs, he's got strong hips, and just kind of using every rotational force that he can. So the toe is part of that. And so if one of his toes is off even a little bit, I think that I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I think this is just probably going to be the case. When they do their locker room cleanout day, I predict that he'll say, yeah, that was the hardest thing for me, is to really kind of step in, because I am he's not an arm thrower. He's a lower body thrower. And his lower body is compromised with that toe injury. So I think that is going to be a February or maybe late January, February storyline. Yeah, Brock Purdy admits that toe affected his throws, and I'm just previewing it right now. I'm looking into the future, 3 months ahead, and predicting what's going to happen.
I can't wait till January, February, and Brock Purdy steps out and says, "I want to refute everything that Matt Barrows has ever said about me. He's a liar, and he should never be read."
Tim Kawakami predicts outcomes of games. I predict storylines that are going to be coming down the pike.
The locker room cleanout day. Prognostication.
Yes.
Say correctly. Way to go, Barrows. Yes, I'm 8 in a row, by the way, on my picks. I'm glad you mentioned.
Wait, but didn't you say that you thought it was going to be sort of a grimy win where, the margin of victory is really small?
I never say blowout ever. And this wasn't a blowout. I just don't do more than 10 points, even again. And whatever I say, I'll stand up for it, but I just never do. This is going to be, especially a road game, never. So point spread, maybe not always exactly on, but I just thought they were the better team, and I thought Brock Purdy would play well. Those were just two things where I was pretty sure in my mind. And
I will hat tip you that.
Yeah, it just isn't something that, again, Purdy might have a bad game coming up at some point, probably not against the Titans, but Seahawks or whoever. I just didn't see it in this one. And I just think he's generally going to have good games. And when he has a bad one, there will be a bounce back, and he will be better, and he will be better, and he will be better, and then he'll have a back, and as do all quarterbacks. I don't think Matthew Stafford's too happy with his game against Carolina, and they lose to Carolina. I think Carolina's pretty good at intercepting the balls. I saw one of them. The guy just jumped the route, and the ball sticks in their hands. And how many times we see DBs, including some 49er DBs, we should point out, the ball does not stick in their hands. The ball clangs off their hands. That is not the Carolina DBs. So full credit to them for that. And you know what? Quarterbacks go through bad games. Matthew Stafford just did. And I'm sure he'll have a good one next time. This does happen. It doesn't need to lead to calls for the backup playing every single time. It just happens with 49ers. I get it. Mac Jones played pretty well. I don't think Mac Jones would have been as good as Brock Purdy was today against that pass rush, move around. He might have won the game. I don't know that he, especially with the short fields, but I just don't think he would have looked like Purdy looked. And that
probably
Purdy
not calling a
the option, the option run there was
for Mac Jones down there.
Exactly, and Purdy looked really good on that one. Like
he looked like Purdy. He looked like the Purdy of old.
So let's just say that I know there will be a Purdy debate. This discourse is endless. He was a 7th round pick, and people cannot forget that. I just think he's a good quarterback. And even after he has a bad game, I'm still going to think that. I'm still going to say that. And then he has a string of them. Then we have a discussion that more into play. Kyle Shanahan in these games. Just like, do you think they can keep, they're going to play, are they going to play like this against Chicago and Indianapolis, or like, do they have to be a little more open? And I guess that exposes their defense when they do that though.
Yeah, it'll be a big test. Chicago, Indianapolis, and Seattle are good teams. So to this point, when we did this back in May, when the schedule came out and everybody looked at it and said, "Oh man, I don't see much competition here." Just on the schedule alone, the 49ers should win 10 games, and a lot of time that's borne true. The Panthers were terrible last week. The Cardinals were awful. The Browns weren't any better this game. But I think that the Bears, a team that the 49ers absolutely just blew out last year. Remember, there was a late season game at Candlestick, and the Bears were terrible.
A Candlestick.
It kind of gave the 49ers like a little glimmer of hope. You know what? If we play like this every week, we're going to make the playoffs and be good. It didn't happen, but they're so much better, and they run the ball, and I think that's going to be really interesting for the 49ers. Can they stop an opponent that's dead set on running the ball? It's a big deal in these last few games. It'll be a big deal no matter who they play in the opening round. They're going to play a good quarterback, and they're going to play a team that knows how to run the ball, because those are the teams that make the playoffs. So that's what, that's the one misgiving I have coming out of these last 2 games.
2 things. We do know that the 49ers play at Levi Stadium, not Candlestick anymore, although you did say Candlestick for the game against the Bears last year. So,
did I say I had Candlestick on my mind from that Saints game.
Okay.
Future sang at halftime.
Yes. And secondly, 49ers are now 6-2 on the road. Again, not the greatest schedule in the history of the world, but they did win in LA and they did win in Seattle. Those are not easy places to win. So I was kind of thinking, they're going to be wild card. That's going to be tough for them to win on the road in playoffs, because we know you play the better teams, you get the quarterback, you get the running back, but maybe it won't make that big a difference. We know they've won on the road in the past in the playoffs. We know this is a team that can travel. We'll see about that. I do think if they could possibly win the division, they are right there in the division now, Barrows, especially with Seattle playing the Rams.
Yes.
If Seattle beats the Rams, the 49ers win out, they are not only the division winners, they are the number 1 seed, which is kind of unbelievable to think of. Now, there's a lot of things that have to happen for them to get there, but that's a pretty good place to be in. I think this would be, and I wrote this would be their gutsiest. Let's just say they don't win the division, but find a way to get the NFC Championship game. Let's say that, which is what they always do under Shanahan when they make the playoffs. You can't put them with the other teams talent-wise, right? You can't. with no Bosa, no
Oh,
Warner.
no, absolutely
You
not.
can't, and
Even the offense for the first half of the season was nothing. It had Christian McCaffrey, and that's it.
yep. And this would be an incredible. And just getting the playoffs would be a pretty amazing achievement, even in a down. Even if it's a down year in the NFC, even if they had a soft schedule, this has been pretty impressive. And I tip my cap to them. And then once you get this far, who knows how far you're going to get? You've shown the ability to take advantage of stuff. As I was trying to put it in the column, they're playing on a short field now because they've gotten through this. They've only got 4 games left. They win 3 of them, they're in the playoffs. They win 4 of them, they might have a home game and they might have number 1 seed. This is the short field. They've done that. They've set themselves up for it. Does not mean that they will absolutely take advantage of it. They're playing some good teams. They might get knocked around in the playoffs. They don't have Bosa and Warner and Michael Williams and all down the line. But I'm impressed by them. I'm impressed by what they've been able to achieve after all these things that we've seen, after blowing out all those veterans in free agency, after not having Brandon Ayuk at all this season and likely won't have him. Impressive stuff. We'll see how it turns out. I just think at this moment, maybe we'll talk about it more during the bye week. But this game, I think, was kind of just a reflection of a team that's just figuring stuff out, how to do it this week, figure out another way next week. And it's not anything to be taken lightly. Barrow's just nodding. Barrow just simply saying, how right can you be?
Well, I mean, there's no way to one up that or end on that. I did want to mention someone who I thought deserves highlighting in this game, and that's referee Brad Allen, because this at 2 hours and 52 minutes was the shortest game of the year for the 49ers. Now, a big asterisk. I don't know what they were thinking on that. Should have been safety there at the end of the game. We only got 1 replay, and it was sort of like a half replay where they're only kind of showing the left side of the defense. Not an A game for CBS, although I did enjoy Trent Green. I thought he had some good comments today. But that was the Brad Allen crew's only flub, I thought. Otherwise, clean game, fast game, not a lot of kind of shenanigans and having to kind of pour over things at the sideline.
Not a lot of referee conferences, which we never like
Yes.
that. I do think CBS kind of blew this one off because had you noticed the first 3 series went off without a commercial break? I think they're like, let's just rush. We're all cold. Let's just get the hell out of here.
They probably only had like 3 cameras working.
I know. They're like, you know what? This is fine. Melanie calls to you on the field. Okay, we can't hear you. That's fine. Let's just get this game over. I've never seen a game, Barrows, where it was 3 possessions. Now, they were not long possessions, but it was 3 possessions. We're like, let's just go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, no commercial. We're done. Thank you, everybody. We'll throw it to the studio. But I'm all good with that. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's have more games like
I'm
that.
not complaining.
The 49ers do not tend to have those kind of games, however, since they usually are spotlighted games that the networks very much care about it. CBS doesn't seem to care about this one too much.
Right. If Tim Kawakami's vision rings true and they get the number 1 seed, they're going to have so many primetime games next year. The game's going to be like 4 hours long.
They're going to always have primetime games.
I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame Tim.
They always have primetime games. There will not be a season where the 49ers do not have many primetime games.
Well, everybody has primetime games now.
Yes,
but
that is also true. All right, that is it for today. There's our 49er wrap-up. They didn't win 26-8. I realize I did not say that score at the beginning. The Browns only scored the 1 time, the touchdown, the 2-point conversion, and then nothing else. Not the greatest performance by the 49ers, but overall pretty thorough way to wrap up a game in the cold on the road, 10 a.m. start, all those things. And now they get the break. We will not break. We'll have a show, I think, later this week. And then we'll come back to you maybe just 1 time next week because there will not be a game to talk about. But we will continue on. We're not going to sleep. We're going to rest up our aches and bruises, but we'll still keep fighting. That's what we do. All right, Barrows, that is the show for today.